Every day, people like you and me witness paranormal activity. Many people suffer alone, afraid of telling their stories. Their encounters remain locked away, like skeletons tapping lightly on a closet door. Join me, Blake Lewis, as we peel back the veil of our reality, searching through silence. Good evening, children of the night. We're gonna do a little change up for tonight's program. Normally I was keeping Searching Through Silence as a retelling of stories that people have gone through and rebuilding their stories into more extrapolated version of horror stories. But now I am looking to expand on this just a little bit more, this platform that I am creating here. I'm also going to be diving into movie reviews, and anyone who is privy to knowing me personally, people know that my favorite character is Freddy Krueger. So I was thinking to myself, what would be a better way to start than for me to do a review on A Nightmare on Elm Street? But not the original. That kind of kicks in along with this review. But what I'm going to be reviewing tonight is the release of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 that released on April 30th of 2010. A very touchy subject when it comes to people who are Freddy Krueger fans in general and or A Nightmare on Elm Street fans of the entire movie franchise. A lot of people get upset when you start talking about this movie because in most people's minds there is no Freddy Krueger if Robert Englund is not Freddy Krueger. And that stands true to form with me personally. It has to be Robert Englund. I can't sit there and watch a movie and pretend to enjoy a movie that has some fraud playing the part of a character that I grew up fearing as a child. And I'm not stupid, I know where they were going. They wanted to remake it, they wanted to push for the younger audience in that time because they wanted to refresh the whole feeling of the A Nightmare on Elm Street series and see if they can play a brand new beginning to it while utilizing some of the older events that actually transpired in Wes Craven's original. But they failed. They failed miserably to me. I sat down the other day and tried to re-stomach watching this movie because I couldn't really get into it one of the first times that I watched it. I couldn't. And believe it or not, I know that there are people out there who still have yet to see it because they're so adamant about the originals that if you even bring up this movie, they're like, nope, I'm not watching it. And I'm sure some of you right here who are listening to this can probably argue for that factor. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't even want to pretend to see it. So, first and foremost, I'll get down to the about in this movie. This is listed on the Warner Brothers website. Freddy Krueger, Jackie Earle Haley, returns in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, here we go. Already out the gate. Jackie Earle Haley, and if anybody else knows who this actor is, it's the guy who played Rorschach in The Watchmen. It says that he returns in A Nightmare on Elm Street. He was never there to begin with. What the hell are you returning to? Okay, let's continue. A contemporary reimagining of the horror classic. 5 teenage friends: Rooney Mara, Katie Cassidy, Thomas Decker, Kyle Gallner, Kellen Lutz, living on one street, all dream of a sinister man with a disfigured face, a frightening voice, and a gardener's glove with knives for fingers. But when one among them dies, they soon realize that what happens in their dreams happens for real, and the only way to stay alive is to stay awake. Buried in their past is a debt that has just come due. To save themselves, they must plunge into the mind of the most twisted nightmare of all, Freddy Krueger. Alright. So, again, they tried so very hard to rehash the exact same ideas, but with like the updated twist in this movie, while adding a little bit of extra detail to Freddy Krueger and completely altering his appearance, trying to make it look like he was more of a realistic burn victim. And I can't get around CGI. I can't watch movies that have CGI so bad that it makes it look so absolutely fake. I can't do it. And this movie suffers from that in so many aspects. It's ridiculous. The biggest one that kills me is in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, if everyone remembers, when Nancy initially falls asleep. The cross falls off of the back of the wall and onto the pillow next to her, and Freddy ends up emerging, or at least trying to pop through the veil of that reality and get into her subconscious. And it shows him like pressing through the wall and used a rubber wall and lighting effects to give it that sense of, it gave it realism. It made it feel frightening because it was real. It was just rubber. But to the person who's watching it, you have no clue that it's rubber. And they even use little techniques to make sure that they can really play off of it. Like they made it recede back, and then it cuts to Nancy picking up the cross and looking at the cross, and then it cuts back to the wall where she hangs it back up, and they switched the wall out for a hard, solid wall, and then they make her knock on the wall to show you the illusion, to give you the sense of that wall was solid. How did they do that? That was brilliance. I love that kind of shit. But then when I re-watched the 2010 version of the same scene, it was all CGI, and he's bending out of the side of the wall, and it looks like liquid. It looks like an old Nickelodeon episode of Alex Mack. It just looks like a Capri Sun commercial or some shit. It was terrible. And he's all screaming in her face as she's sleeping, and then rubber bands back into the wall and she snaps out of her dream. Terrible. Just really messed up with the CGI. Or even little things that bothered me, like the side of Freddy Krueger's face. He's sitting there at one point having a heart-to-heart with Nancy, and you can see, like, they tried to make it look like parts of his skin could be seen through on the corner of his face, and it just looked so cartoony, so fake. It drives me nuts. They redid the bathroom scene as well, and they also redid the hallway scene, where instead of the original version where she was running up the stairs and her feet were going through the stairs as she was walking, they did it with her running down the hallway, but it transforms into a pool of blood, and she's sitting there swimming through the pool of blood. Now, mind you, I do believe that that was cool, and it was a little bit more detailed, and it was real at that point. But then once she goes under, and then it shows the graphics pulling her through, and then she ends up falling through in like a dress, and the ceiling pops open, and little like flakes of the ceiling fly all over the place as she lands inside of the bed, dressed up now for Freddy to have his way with her. It was terrible. I hated it. Hated it. Couldn't take it. I don't think I'll ever be able to get over it. And Freddy in it just seems so much more small, even though they were trying to like make him play that Rorschach part almost. Every time he talked, all I heard was Rorschach. He was just angry and trying to do the deep voice, like he's Christian Bale as Batman. No. Nope. I just can't watch it. I can't give it respect. I don't think I'm gonna ever watch it again. I don't want to hate on the fact that it was attempted, but it seems nowadays that this is all that they're ever going to do. Even back then, it's the same as now. They're taking horror movie characters and they're redoing the characters over and over again. And I've already seen the characters. I love the original characters. You don't have to take my version away. Re-release the DVD. Make it like a Blu-ray special or something. Add some flavor to it, or just hype the originals up. Find a way to hype the originals up. Stop redoing the same shit and then not even having a fresh take on it. You're taking scenarios that were already directed and shot better, and you're fucking them up. You're destroying them. And then you'll talk to some people that are like, oh, well, I love it. I loved the movie, but I just didn't like how Freddy looked. Okay, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't love the movie, but hate how they changed Freddy. That is crazy. That's crazy talk. That, to me, is like, they changed Freddy, and I can't even look at Freddy Krueger. When I go to see A Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm not going for the cinematic experience, the movie, as opposed to seeing Freddy Krueger. So, this movie, to me, fell short by a mile. And I mean, I think about the original one. There was so many groundbreaking things in that movie. And Wes Craven directed that movie. So to me, I'm like, the original one will always hold true. So many great little things, like when Tina is in the alley and she's obviously in a dream because nobody is that batshit crazy to go fucking walk barefoot in lingerie out to go see who the hell is throwing rocks at your glass and breaking your glass window. Fuck out of here. That kind of shit only happens in nightmares. She goes out and Freddy's walking down the alley with those stretched out arms. I remember watching that as a child, and that shit fucking fucked my brain up initially. I was like, what the? That is, no. Holy no. And she's like, please, God. This is God. Epic line. Then they use the whole double actor thing. He's chasing her all chaotic, and then she turns and smacks right into Robert Englund. Oh, great. Him hopping out behind a tree. Tina, watch this. Chopping off his fucking fingers. Green blood squirting out. Cutting his belly, and you see like worms and fucking green blood. No. Then he's tackling her, and she's tearing at his face. It tears his face off, and it's a bloody skeleton. Like, those practical effects made that movie frightening, because to a younger person's mind, or anybody who's actually knowing what is solid and what is real, you're looking at that, and that looks real as hell. And there's something about old movies, like I love old grainy footage. I'm a grainy footage kind of guy. All these new movies that look like they were filmed for a WB-17 airing. No, too crystal clear. I don't need 4K. I don't need 5K. I don't need fucking 6K. Look, they're talking about 8K is coming next. What? How the fuck you gonna jump from 4K to 8K? I mean, I'll enjoy 8K when I'm watching sports and shit, but then now all the movies, all the horror movies are coming out in 8K. I don't need them to look like fucking soap operas. It's getting frustrating because a lot of movies are suffering from this now. I'm not gonna dive into any other movies other than A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise at this point, because this is what I initially was trying to talk about during this episode. But yeah, I'm disappointed. I won't be watching it again, like I said. And in fact, I'm sitting here looking at my Nightmare on Elm Street coffee mug that is filled with coffee. I love it. My favorite franchise. And if you ask me, the best movies of them all, and this might be a crazy opinion to some. In this order, I would say 1, 3, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, 2, and then Freddy's Dead, because that's when they even knew that it was becoming far too cheesy and becoming a joke, that they were trying to show it as a joke. They didn't even title the movie A Nightmare on Elm Street. They named that shit Freddy's Dead because they wanted to placate the whole it's funny and it's a horror movie and it's the last Freddy Krueger movie, we're gonna kill him off. At least that was the thought process. They even had Freddy breaking the, I guess, fourth dimension, so to speak, looking into the camera, putting his finger up, like he is directly speaking to the person who's watching the movie. They broke all the rules in that one. My man was sitting back, kicking his feet up, playing a fucking video game with a guy inside of it. My man Spencer, he was hopping him around like he was Mario from Mario Brothers with the power glove. Nothing prepared me as a child for that movie. Because when I watched that movie, I was a teenager, but I was like, yo, this is great. It was kind of the first scary movie of its time that I could recall, at least, because they were poking fun at it. It was horror satire, and it was a great watch. Still one of my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And then after that, I can't get into part 5. Nah, I just can't. Like Dream Child and shit, it was just a little too much for me, even with those. I really wish that it ended with part 3. And then they ended up making Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That would have been the end of the series if it was a trilogy. And then Freddy coming out of the movies and attacking Nancy in her real life. That would be so sick. And to me, that's how I'm gonna end up watching that series always. I love how Freddy looked in certain movies, like part 5. I love how Freddy looked in part 5. I just hated the concept of it. When you're getting into people with superpowers in dreams and the Dream Master and all this other crazy happy horse shit, they're still old, so I'll watch them. I'll fucking throw in a brand new bag of popcorn, pop the shit out of that, and I'll binge watch the entire series, except for this new movie. I do also like Freddy vs. Jason. That was just fun. It was just fun. And if anybody can sit here and argue that that was not fun, you're crazy. So, with that being said, I give this movie, if I had to rate it on a scale from 1 to 5, I am literally dead serious. I would give it, and I'm being nice, a 2. Only because it is a Nightmare on Elm Street, and I wanted to like it so much. I just don't. And I think if I go any lower than a 2, I'll feel like I'm just a straight hater, when I'm not being a hater. I'm just being a realist. And if you want to argue with me on this, have at thee. But I am true to my roots, Robert Englund, all day. So, without any more banter on that subject, I do want to enlighten you all with the knowledge of me working constantly on this new story that I'm going to be dropping. It is going to be a very dark, long tale. It's going to be a great one. It's going to be a fun read. You're going to be able to sit back for like a good hour. It's like an audio movie, and be able to dive into my own version of Tales from the Crypt meets Stephen King and Are You Afraid of the Dark? All of my favorite shit wrapped into my little program that I got going on here. So I hope you guys continue to stay tuned and keep listening to my programs as they drop. And I'm going to be doing these reviews far more often with Searching Through Silence. That way, while I am working on these projects that are taking a little bit longer than normal to release, I can still release content in between, and we can get some of this horror conversation bouncing back and forth between us. So, if you have any suggestions on any movies that I should possibly watch and or review on here and give my honest opinions, hit me up, send me a message and tell me what it is that you would like to hear. I'll even do a poll. At one point, I'll poll people on my next episodes. That way it becomes more interactive and people can feel as if they too are part of the process. So, until next time, stay safe, sleep well, and keep your wits about you.